Hello, welcome back to Dawn's Tailor Made. A little bit later than usual, but I was working on this pattern for you. So this is a Christmas tree, okay? I was thinking that if you did a brown fabric at the bottom, then it would look like you had the brown of the trunk at the bottom. But also, once I'd sewn it together and turned it over, it does look like a fish, or it could look like a rocket, okay? So if you wanted to make these to hang on your Christmas tree, to put, I'm thinking of using them as gift bags for money or vouchers and things. You could make a fish, or you could make a rocket or an aeroplane. So I'm using them for masks. So the idea is you put your clean one in the zipped pocket and you keep it nice and clean. And then when you've used it, you pop it into the little pouch at the top. Now there is enough for 2 in here, okay? If you wanted to make it a little bit bigger, you might get enough, you could be able to fit 4 in. But just, it's a bit of trial and error. Like I said, I had the idea this morning, and I've just been working on it for you. So let's pop the mask away. And what we're doing is we're looking at zipper tabs, okay? So it's one of the easiest way to put a zip into a bag, because you don't have to have it disappearing into the top, and you don't need to use the continuous zip either. So we're going to do some zipper pad tabs today. Now I'm using a matching thread because I'm going to do some top stitching. I didn't do it on this one. Like I said, I was trying to get it done quickly to show you. So we're going to be doing some top stitching on there. I'm also going to make the zip a little bit longer. So that's a good thing if you get a really long zip. So this is my zip. It's because it's the one that I've got. So I'm going to be not using a lot of it. Probably only this much. But don't throw those bits away, because you can buy the ends, okay? You can buy these bits, and then you can then just reuse the zip. So do not throw it away if you are using a longer zip. So let's have a look at some of the measurements. So I tried to make you a pattern so you could see. Okay, now, so it's 5.5 inches long. So, you know, if you wanted to fold it in half, it might be easier to do. But 5.5 inches long, if you draw that on your piece of paper, okay? And then if you bring your ruler down your piece of paper, so you've got a point at the top, okay? And if you bring your ruler down, when you get to 5 3/4, and on your and you're drawing a straight line, okay, that is how you draw your triangle, okay? Does that make sense? I hope so. But you can do any size you want. I mean, what I did is I folded the piece of paper in half, and then I just drew out a triangle in the bottom, and I felt that the bottom was a bit too wide, so I changed it. So don't worry if, you know, if yours is going to be a different size. And at the bottom, it's 2.5 inches down, and then 4 inches across. Okay, so hopefully you can make your own pattern. But like I said, it's quite easy to draw a Christmas tree, hopefully. What I did is I found this one a little bit too small. So what I did is I drew around it, and then I added my own seam allowance. So all I did is I took my pen and I did what I thought was a good seam allowance. I've done it a little bit bigger than 3/8 of an inch. So because I wanted the bag to be a little bit bigger. Okay, so let's get sewing. So you need 2 pieces for your front and for your pocket. So here there is a little pocket, okay? This bag isn't lined, but what you can do is once you've finished sewing, if you then sew all the way around, you will enclose those seams, a bit like a French seam. So all those seams would then be enclosed, and it would mean that the pocket here would be tighter. So, you know, make sure that I mean, they're not going to fall out, but it does keep them a bit more secure. So that is how you can make sure you don't need to do French seams. You can just sew over it, so it's similar to a French seam. Okay, so you need to cut out to draw around your shape. That is your Christmas tree base, and then we need another piece here to go on the other side. So you do your right sides together. Okay. and then where you are going to be putting in your zip, you need your piece to be a little bit longer. Now let's get the ruler. Again, if you're drawing your own, this will be whatever size that you want it to be. So mine is about 9 inches by 7 inches, okay? Because what we're going to do, we're going to be cutting this in half, and then it's going to be moving across. So don't think that you would draw around your tree, then cut it in half and then put your zip in, because you might find that the tree shape has changed. So what we're going to do is going to put our zip in first with our zipper tabs, and then we're going to place this on the top and then cut it around, and then it will be exactly the right size. Okay, so all will become clear. So take my scissors. I've interfaced this back with just a little bit of medium interfacing, and I'm going to cut it in half. Okay, I love those cutting noises. Now I need to put my thread on my machine, and I need to put my zipper tabs on. Okay, so my zipper tabs are, let's measure these for you. They are 4 inches by 2.5 inches. Okay, so those will be my zipper tabs. Now before you sew your zipper tab, you need to attach your zip together because it will move around. Okay, so you just take a little bit of thread. So I've got a needle threaded here. Put a knot in the end. You are just going to pull this out. I mean, I'm thinking about it, I think mine is still inside, but you can pull this out when you're done. So all you're going to do is just sew up the end. It just helps when you're adding the zipper tab, okay, that it's not going to move. Now I did say in the description, I'm not going to use my zipper foot. I do have a zipper foot, but I know many of you may not, and I wanted everyone to be able to make this, okay? Put one on your Christmas list if you don't have one, because they are useful. There will be times that you want to sew really close to a zip, okay? So there we go. You don't need to do it on the other side because it's already attached, okay? So we're going to pop our zipper tab on here, but we don't need to use our zipper foot. So I'm going to move the machine in so that you can all see, and we'll go down just a little bit. Okay, there we go. So take your zip, move your zip down a little bit, okay, and then you need to place your zipper tab on the shorter piece. The shorter piece needs to go against where you've just sewn your piece in, okay? So just lay it across like that, and then we're going to be using a 3/8 of an inch seam allowance, okay? Just sewing across there, but don't sew over the bumpy bit, okay? So you can lay that onto the bumpy bit of your zip, and then you can just sew a bit further down. Now I'm just going to use my foot once I've put my thread back on. Now, people were asking me about thread the other day. This isn't a Gutermann one. This is a Core Bond one, okay? But it's the one that matches. It was in my stash. So I haven't used this one before. So we'll be testing it together. You know how I like to do that. So my thread is now up. Oh, didn't pull it up. Because I've got it's because I've got my plate on the top. If it's going to go wrong, it's going to go wrong in a live. But we like that, don't we? Right, ready to sew. So all I'm doing is I am using my second position, my second stitch, because it moves my needle over, okay? So most machines, most modern machines have that ability. And if it doesn't, then I would imagine you've probably already bought yourself a zipper foot. So as I said, I'm going to line my fabric up with where we have just sewn, okay? And then I'm just going to sew slowly across using my foot as my guide. My foot has my foot is going to go against the edge of the fabric. Okay, so needle down. I'm going slowly because we're sewing over. Now, this is a plastic zip, so my needle is not going to have any problems with it. And then what you need to do is your iron needs to be on, and then you need to iron that back. Okay, and then we need to do a top stitch. I'll do the top stitch after because I don't want to have to keep changing my needle position. So bring my iron up. Now I'm going to lay this on top because, as you know, I like to figure these things out as we go along. I don't know how long I want my zipper to be yet. So I'm just going to take those threads off. I'm going to iron this down. Try not to iron over the plastic of your zip, okay? Because it could melt if your iron is hot. So just iron that down, okay? And then, as I said, we're going to top stitch across there. Now, I don't know how long I want my zip to be. You can make yours any length that you want to, okay? So if it's going to be the same as the other one, I would be chopping it here, but I'm going to move it up a little bit. I want it up there, and then I'm going to come down to about here. So I'm going to take my other piece, okay? I'm going to finger press it because that will represent when I've sewn it. I don't want it to be right in the base because of my seam allowance, so I'm thinking that's probably, so there you go, it's about another 3/4 of an inch longer than the last one. I think that's perfect. So I'm just going to move that over. I pop a pin in it just so it doesn't move. Okay, and then I'm going to put that back under the machine. Okay, so wherever you've decided that you want to put it, make sure that it's you're allowing for your seam allowance. Don't put it where the bottom of the fabric is, okay? So remember to add your seam allowance. And again, I'm just using the edge of my foot. There we go. Okay, so all the way across. Now, if I wasn't top stitching, I would do a second row of stitches there, but because we're top stitching, we're going to be reinforcing it. So I'm not going to do that, because when I turned this one right side out, you could see there was a little bit of strain on the stitches there. Okay, so we are going to top stitch, which, as I said, is why I've used a matching thread. If you want to use a contrasting thread, then you can. That's fine. Make sure your stitches are really neat, and you can use a contrasting thread. So we're going to iron down that second piece. Now, I've used a Christmas tree as my shape. This, you can use this method for any shape, okay? Any shape bag. So this could just as easily be a pencil case. And when I'm laying my fabric on the top, so that's my Christmas tree, okay? And when we're shaping it, I could just be sewing this as a rectangle. I could be sewing it as a square. I could be sewing it as a circle. I will give you a sneak peek. I am working on making a circle bag. Can you see what that might be? I'll leave you to think. So yes, so you could make this any shape you want. Don't be distracted by the fact that I'm making a tree. You just, from now on, ignore the tree part. This could be any shape you wanted, okay? This is how you would sew this type of zip into any pouch that you wanted to, okay? So don't get hung up on the fact that it looks like a Christmas tree. Now I'm going to cut, I want to keep some of this zip, okay? Remember I said you can just add new zipper pulls on there. So don't use your fabric scissors because it can be quite hard to cut. So now I've got all this zip left, okay? Now I do like to buy the zips on a roll, but I bought these in a batch ages ago. So now as long as I match up the top, I will be able to put another zipper pull on there. So I'm not going to throw that away. So there we go. So now we have our zip enclosed. I did interface on my zipper tabs as well, okay? So there we go. Apologise if anyone is saying hello. As you know, I can't see. Taking my glasses off when I sew. So now we're going to do our top stitching. So default, machine off, back on again, and I'm using my default stitch, which is just the number 1, and then I'm going to go to, it's normally a 3.5, I'm going up to a 5.0, and it's normally a 2.2, so I'm going up to a 3.5. Okay, and then I'm just going to top stitch. Now I don't know, because I am obviously I'm going to be sewing into a point, so I'm going to start from this end and go all the way along, which is what you would do if you were now sewing this as a rectangle and not as a Christmas tree. Okay, and then just try and keep it as close to the edge of your fabric that you've folded as you can, and just go slowly, because again you're going to be going over. When you get to the zip, go slowly, because you want to get it exact. Okay. And just a bit faster when we get to the end. There we go. So there is your top stitching. Now just making the stitch a little bit longer. I don't know why it looks prettier that way. It just does. I don't know. So zip closed, and using the same distance on the other side. Okay, slow down as I go over my zip. You've got a few pieces of fabric there, so just give it a little pull if you feel it needs to. Just give it a guide and stop. Those of you, if you haven't watched us before, if you're wondering why I'm using my fingers are up here, it's because I use my start stop button. I don't use my foot pedal. So there we go. Our zip tabs are ready. So as you can imagine, if you were then putting that into a bag, you would have much more flexibility. Okay, you don't have, I mean, there is the hardness of that zip under there, but you would have more flexibility. You're not trying to get the zip to go right into the edge of your pouch, should I say, not your bag. Okay, so that really does help when you're doing zips, if you use zipper tabs. So as I said, I want it to be a little bit longer than that one. So what you do is when you put your zip in, decide which way up you want it to go. So I want mine going up to the top. Okay, so I need to have it this way. So I'm going to open my zip out. You will need to move your zipper pull backwards and forwards, okay, when you're sewing. So you want your zipper tabs up. Put that back a little bit. Your zipper tabs up, okay, and then you place your right sides to right sides, okay, and then make sure it's equidistant, and then pop in a pin just to hold it there. Now with having the interfacing on here, it does make this next step a little bit easier. Now if you are using your zipper foot, what happens is when you're using your zipper foot, you don't have the second piece of your foot to guide. So what you can do is just use your nail and draw yourself a little line. I mean, it won't be necessary for us today, because obviously I'm going to be using my foot as my guide. But if you were using your zipper foot, just draw a line down, and then that is where you put the edge of your zipper foot. Let me get my zipper foot out so I can show you. So when you would be sewing, you would then be able to put this against your zipper foot, okay, and then you could just take your line down like that, okay, because you don't have the extra piece on that side. Put it against my shirt, so you don't have that extra piece there to guide you, which you do with your normal foot, okay. But we're not doing that today, because we are using our second stitch and our needle is going over, okay, and then I'm just going to pop my foot against my fabric here, and then it will be up as close as it can be, and then I'm just going to start right at the other end. Move that over a little bit, okay, so take that pin out. So that is where my foot is going to sit against my zip, okay? So I'm just going to mark that line on the interfacing. Now if you're not using interfacing and you're using cotton, even if you're using a canvas, you should be able to just crease that line in, okay? So little top tip. place my foot. So now my edge of my foot is now against where the zip is going to be, okay? So needle down, back stitch. I'm not going to go too fast because I want this to be straight. Okay. If you go too fast, you may find that you have a bit of a wobble. Now, my zipper tab is up here, okay? So I'm going to sew up to it, and I'm going to stop with my needle down, lift up my presser foot, and then I'm going to close my zip. Now, when you are sewing, most of the time you need your zip open because we're not going to be doing a lining on this, so that's how I'm going to turn the bag the right way around. So don't forget to have your zip open when you come to that stage, okay? And if I don't do it, scream at the at your phones or your laptops and tell me to, okay? So we've now got one line of stitching and our zip is enclosed in there, okay? And then I'm going to smooth that down. Again, I'm not going to top stitch now because I'm going to top stitch when we've done the other side as well. So I'm just finger pressing that down so you can see. Okay, I'm going to open up my zip again, turn around. Now don't have your zip sticking up that way because it makes it bulkier. So have your zip lying down, okay? And then I'm going to take my other piece of fabric and I am going to rest it against the zip, and then I'm going to line it up. Now these are just oddments of fabric, so mine aren't perfectly straight because I know that I'm going to be able to fit it inside there. Okay, so I'm going to I'm going to take it to the machine, I'm going to place my foot down and I'm going to find out where that line is. Actually, I'm going to close my zip because I'm sewing this way, okay? And then I will push it, we will move it from the other side. You were screaming at me then saying, "Don't move it." Move that down just a little bit. There we go. So again, I'm going to put my foot where my zip is, okay, and then I'm going to make that little crease just so that I know and my eye isn't distracted, because you may think you know where it is, but your eye can mislead you. And then I'm going to go back to the start of the fabric, and my foot is going up against this line that I've just marked in. Okay, needle down, back stitch, and then sew. And I am up, as you saw, I am close enough to the zip that it's tidy, and I haven't got too much zipper tape showing. Now if I had a green zip, a matching zip, then it would be harder to see, but I don't. So foot up, close, no, open my zip this time. Okay, back down, and then, now because I'm not using my zipper foot, I am not as close as I could be if I was using my zipper foot. So that is why we're going to top stitch, because we're going to give this zip some extra strength either side, okay? So you open that out, and there your zip is inside. Now imagine if you wanted to now, you could just sew this, obviously inside out, you could sew this down, and then you would have a little pouch, a little square pouch or rectangular pouch, and your corners would just fold down like that, and they would be much neater than trying to get that zip down there, okay? So zipper tabs are a really, really good way of putting in a zip, okay? Make sure everything is smooth, and then I'm going to do some top stitching. I think it's just nice because we've got that little piece of top stitching across here, okay? So I'm going to go to the same length, and then I'm going to try and use the same distance there, okay? So off and on, okay, and then I'm going to make my stitch longer, as I said. So so back up to a 5.0 and a 3.5, so that is the same as what we were doing just now. Okay, so I'm going to close my zip because I'm going this way, or you could have it round, start the other way if you wanted to. Okay, so I'm going to place my the crease in my fabric here. Okay, the seam is going against my foot, and then I'm just going to sew all the way down. So that's going to be my guide. That's my line now. Okay. And just pull the fabric apart a little bit. Stop again when you get, oh, needle down. Lift back up and then open up your zip, okay? And then just following that line again, all the way to the end. Now, what you could do, if you used a contrasting colour now, I'm going to go back and do the same on the other side. Maybe you used a metallic thread or a red or something bright. If you wanted to add some small circles on here, they would look like baubles, wouldn't they? Or you could do some free motion of a different colour and they would look like it had tinsel or something like that. So there's lots of little things that you can do. Hopefully this is quelling your fears of zips. Okay, needle down, up and along. This really is, if somebody thinks there is an easier way or another way of putting in a zip for a beginner, please let me know. We do beginner courses, beginners zip courses, where you learn to do 4 or 5 different zips, and this I find is the easiest one, and it is the one that everyone finds the easiest. So there you go. So now we've got some beautiful top stitching, top and bottom. Okay, now I need to remember which way I want to go. So I have my zip. I'm not going to have it open all the way because it does make it bulky when that sticks out. So just open it a little bit and have it let down. Okay, so we want it, sorry, you guys can't see. This way a bit. So I want it up that way. That is the way that my tree is shaped. Okay, so our zipper tabs are done. As I said, you could now do any shape you wanted to. You could now do a circle, you could do anything, and then you would still stitch. So when I was making my Christmas pudding, that is what I'm using as my template. So all you would do now is you would cut that around, you would place your other fabric on, you would draw around it, sew all the way around with your zip open, don't forget that bit, turn it inside out, and then you would have a circle purse. Okay, so whichever way you want to do it. Now, if you wanted to add a ribbon for this to go onto a tree, or maybe a hair tie, you would pop that in now and it would face this way. Okay, smaller bit at the top, have that down, and then this would hang from your tree. The 2 bags that I'm making now, somebody has asked me for some Christmas masks, so that's what these bags are for, and they don't need that the hanger. They're just going to be putting it into their bag. They don't need that bit for here, but if you do, make sure you've got your longer bit of your ribbon or your tie, if that's what you're going to put on, make sure it goes down that way. Okay, so we now need to put our pouch on. Okay, so there is my pattern drawn. Okay, and then I want, so this one I thought is about the right height, because what I wanted to do is have a small gap at the top, so when the mask goes in it doesn't come out. I might move it up a little bit more on this one. Okay, so I'm going to put a mark there just to remind me. Okay, now I need to take my other piece and we're now just going to do a normal hem. Okay, so we're going to go over 1/4 of an inch, over 1/4 of an inch, and we're going to iron that flat. Okay, you don't have Christmas gifts. What you could do, just had this thought, is you could make 24 of these. Wow, that's why we're not lining them, because I'm planning on making a lot. You could make 24 of these and then you could hang them up, couldn't you? And you could have some Christmas bunting. Okay, and you could put your sweets or whatever in the top and they wouldn't be able to see it. And if you wanted to do 25 or have the special thing on the 24, you could put your zip in the 24th one, and then you could put something bigger in there, okay, as a surprise. So these ideas are just coming. Now I've still got my longer stitch on for the top stitching. So all I'm going to do is put my foot against the fabric here, okay, and then I'm just going to sew down. No, I'm not. where you have, I've shown you this before, where you have your foot, okay, you have that little gap inside. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the fabric against the little gap inside my foot, okay, because I want the top stitching to be a little bit further down. You can do it from using your foot as the guide if you want to, but it would just mean that this bit wouldn't be enclosed enough. I want to go along there, okay. Now the reason I'm not sewing that side is just in case this isn't straight. If I use that as my seam guide and I turned over, it might not be straight on that side, okay. So I'm going to put the fabric, as I said, it's not on this side, okay, it's on the centre. Now do you remember our tip from Clive the other day? Clive that was on Sewing Street, okay, I'm going to hold my 2 threads. Can you see them? Because they're green, you might not be able to see. Okay, I'm going to put my needle down. I'm holding my threads up and I'm just going to start to sew. And by holding that thread up, sorry, where's my hand in the way? Holding the thread up meant that it didn't disappear. Sometimes you use thin bits of fabric and they disappear into your machine, okay? So I'm going right up to here. Anybody spotted what I've done? Had it on the wrong side. So this just shows you if you do your top stitching the wrong way. My top stitching is on the top, but my seam, my hem, sorry, is now, when I'm putting things inside the pouch, it's going to move. Okay, so now I'm going to, let's figure out where we want it. So now I'm going to use that stitching as my guide, okay, and I'm going to put my foot on that bit of stitching, okay, that's now my new guide, and I'm going to sew 2 lines of thread and make sure I've got, hold them up, okay, or out, just hold them taut, that's all you need to do, and then start stitching, and it stops your thread from disappearing into the machine. Oh, I think that's my top tip of the year that I've learnt. Never stop learning. Every day is a school day, especially with sewing, because other people, even beginners, I've said this before, even beginners can, they've found a new way of doing something because it's all new to them, and they've gone, oh, well, I'm going to try that a different way, or I'm just going to try it that way. They don't know there's another way, and that's how new things are developed. So I'm just going to iron that down. Okay. Now this next bit might be a little bit counterintuitive, as I call it, okay, because you may think that you want your pieces in a different way, but just follow these steps and you'll have it the right way. So I'm going to fold my tree in half, to hold that up to the light so that I can see. Right, my tree is folded in half, okay. There we go, and then I'm going to iron that down, and then I'm going to check that it is in half. Okay. Yes, that's pretty much in half, okay, because I need that to know where I'm going to be laying my zip, okay, so it's just going to help me with either end, okay, that will become clear in a minute. So right sides together, okay, and then place your pocket on the top. So this is the top of my tree, okay, so I need to decide where I want that to lie, because remember I said I wanted it, so I drew some marks in so you can see through, you can see what I can see. I can see where my lines are, and I'm going to move my pocket down. So my pocket is now, can you see, in line with those lines that I just made. Now I popped a pin in this before. I need to make sure that that's level. It's not level with my tree, look, can you see? My tree is wonky. So I need to make sure that my tree and my fold, yep, that's level. Now I'm going to pop a tiny pin in here because I put a bigger pin in earlier, and then when I tried to turn it inside out, I got my finger. So putting it, and I'm also going to put it across, that's another idea, because when I tried to turn the bag around, as you can imagine, I had a really big zip in here and it was going the same way, and yes, I got stabbed. So I'm going to put my little pin across that way just to hold that down, okay, so that now my little pocket isn't going to go anywhere, okay. I can still see my fold. So there's my fold from before. Let's just, I'm going to pop a pin in it actually, and it's not going to stay there, it's just because my fabric's a little bit long. But I need to make sure, this is how things develop. Still can't see it. Maybe I'll cut that bit of the fabric off. That would be a good idea. Let's just use Betsy quickly. See, I love figuring these things out as we go along, because that's why I like to record it in time, in real time, because then if I find something tricky, you might find something tricky. Okay, so remember, this is the top of my tree. Just check, this is the top of my tree, and I want my zip at the top. Okay, so I'm going to bend that in half, and I'm going to try and lay it as close to the center, or as on the center as I can, and then I'm going to put it down. Now what happened with this one, you can probably see it's not quite in the center. I'm sure that the girls, when they get these, they're not going to mind. But if you're thinking of selling these, please feel free. Make them, sell them, make yourself some money. A little nod to say, Dawn's tailor made. That was her pattern. Then, you know, that would be lovely, but you don't have to. It's not a requirement. But my angel policy for this one is you can make what you want and sell what you want, okay? Let's make some pennies for our Christmas presents. Is that a good idea? So I'm all pinned in, okay? And now I'm just going to use this side as my guide. Is my zip open? Were you shouting at me? My zip is not open. Open your zip, guys. If you can't, I mean, that was also one of the cool things, was because I had my zip not at the top when we were sewing. Do you remember I said to have it down a little bit so it makes it smoother? It meant I could put my finger in. Okay, so we're now going to just sew all the way around that tree. Don't need to leave a turning gap because we're not having we're not putting in a lining. Okay, so start wherever you want. I would recommend right, machine off, back to your default, and just line up where your little arrow is on your foot if you've got one, but just make sure that your needle is in the center, okay, when you're sewing. Now on my pattern I haven't done I've not done them as a point, okay? It's because when you turn it in right side out, you're just not going to get a sharp point. And I don't think you need to. I think a Christmas tree that's round this shape, or if that's your fish, or if that's going to be your space rocket or your aeroplane, I don't think you need sharp points. So when I got to the bottom, I did try and round the corners, okay? And the same at the top. So needle down. Just on our default stitch. Now remember, up here, these are my zipper tabs, okay? So that's 1, 2, then the zip, 3, 4, your part. Everything is in the top here, so that's a lot of fabric, okay? I'm not using my roller foot because it's not that thick a fabric. It is just a lightweight cotton. But just remember, you hear it struggling there, just remember how many layers you've got in there. Now I'm going to slow down when I get to the top, and I'm just going to pull with this hand, same as we did with our poppers yesterday. Pull with this hand and turn my fabric around, and I'm going to go slowly, and that will just give me a nice round top. So just pull. It's much easier than the poppers actually, because this is a bigger turn, a bigger curve rather. Stop, because my fabric is moving underneath my foot. Make sure everything is level, and then just keep going. But you can see I'm just using the pressure of this hand and just turning it. Now it's starting to bunch a little bit because there's a thicker piece here and a thinner piece there. So just turn, hold your foot up just a little bit and turn your fabric around underneath it, and then go down, and then keep turning. It's bunching up again, so just lay it flat, because then that's going to smooth out your fabric, okay? And then I'm going to go a little bit faster because I'm going down to the straight edge. Okay, just following my line, using my pencil mark. You're not going to see that because, like I said, we're going to be over sewing. So we're going to be making sure all our seams are enclosed in there. Okay, so I got to the edge again. So slowing down, or for you guys, you know, you use your foot. It's different, isn't it? So I'm just turning. up a little bit. This is just how you sew a curve, or how you would sew a circle. Just slowly. Just doing one stitch at a time, look, and then down to the other side. And I did the same at the bottom. I'm just going to take that pin out. So at the bottom on my pattern, when I drew it, I drew a curve in here, okay? But the curve is going the other way, so I'm just going to use my hand and pull my fabric around that way. Okay, so slowly again. And it's just a curve. And then straight. And you can do a square at the bottom if you want to. It's up to you. This is your tree. If you do make one, please add pictures. We'd love to see them. Send them to Dawn's Tailor Made Facebook page, or the Dawn's Tailor Made sewing group if you want to join the sewing group. There are some things that go onto the sewing group page that don't go onto the Dawn's Tailor Made page, so remember to check out both. And there is also, if you subscribe to the Dawn's Tailor Made YouTube channel, just turn your fabric around like I said. If you subscribe to the Dawn's Tailor Made YouTube channel, you get to join the Dawn's Tailor Made sewing subscribers group, and there are definitely things there that you don't get in the other groups, because we post a free video tutorial every month. So there's 2 on there now because we started in September. So in September you got the Gracie bag, which was a little bag. Those would be perfect to put little gifts in, actually, if people are thinking of not using wrapping paper this year. So if you go to there, you will find the Gracie bag. It's a lined tote bag with a handle. And there is also, I will show you in just a second, everybody will have seen the cinch tote lunch bags. Well, I got in touch with the original designer from Pink Penguin, Ayumi, and she said that I could, as long as I was doing it for free, she said that I could release a video to show you all how to make the lunch bag. So I did, and at the weekend I had a little sew along with some friends, and we made the cinch tote, but I made it without the handles. And as you can see, I've got a huge peanut butter box in there, and I've just, so it still just do the cinching if I want it to. There you go. But I just didn't put the handles on it. And then all I do is I just put that either side of my pot, and I've got a way of masking my bin in my sewing room. So that tutorial is on the Dawn's Tailor Made subscribers group page on Facebook. So if you do, I can take that off now. That's what I should have done last time. So then take your pin out if you did put one in. Okay, so if you do subscribe to the YouTube channel, please get a hold of me, either by putting a comment on the YouTube channel or sending a screenshot is what I like, so that I can see, because YouTube doesn't always show me that you have subscribed, because if you may or may not know, you will probably have a private account on YouTube, unless you change it, because by default it's private. So if you have a private account, I cannot see that you've subscribed. Okay, so I need you to take a screenshot with your camera and with your phone, and then just send it to me on the Dawn's Tailor Made messenger group, or post it somewhere, okay, and I'll be able to see it. So I'm using Betsy. She is my 50-plus-year-old pair of Janome pinking shears, and she is amazing because I've never sharpened her. I've only had her, she's only been with me for maybe 9 or 10 years, but I haven't sharpened her in that time. So as I said the other day, I was talking to Deborah from Janome, and I said, you won't believe how amazing my pinking shears are. I haven't named my sewing machine. Some people do. I don't know why I haven't. I've got 2, as you can probably see in the background sometimes, and you can see it on the YouTube channel, is I have a very old singer that I was gifted by a lovely lady, and I haven't used it yet. Still a bit scared. Anyone's got one, wants to do a sew along with your old singers, I would love to do that. I need to get braver. So there you go, and that's the first time that she struggled to cut. Now I'm not going to throw these pieces away, okay, because these would make, these are big enough to make zipper tabs. So when I make the other ones, okay, I've got lots of these because I made, you know, this is my, I've made a few of them now. So I'm going to keep these bigger pieces because they will be good as using zipper tabs. And then what I'm going to do is I cut these bits off, and then that goes into my pouch for any free motion that I want to do. If you've seen the free motion classes that we do, no size is too small. And if it's already got stabilizer on the back, that's going to save me a job. So there's my tree, pinked all the way around. We were wondering that yesterday. Is it called pinked? Do you pink with pink and shears? A bit strange. So all you need to do, now I've taken that pin out, is turn your bag the right sides out. And we hope our pouch and everything is all in the right place. Okay. Now, I've said this before, use your seam ripper for good. Don't let him be the enemy. And just push out your corners with your seam ripper, okay? All the way around to the other side. Apologise for that noise. Somebody's decided to clean the road. I appreciate them cleaning it. It's lovely. I am not going to moan. I'm just going to say I'm sorry if suddenly there's some background noise. That is what it is, okay? Somebody is cleaning it. Now I'm not going to push the corners all the way out because I really do like this rounded edge. When I draw trees, I don't draw like angular ones. I draw softer ones, okay? And when we do our top stitching, it's going to be much easier to do a softer one, okay? So I'm just finger pressing that all the way around, and I can still, yes, I can see a tree, but I can see a space rocket. I work in a nursery, and I just know some of the children, if I drew this in certain colours, we've just done bonfire night, obviously, so a lot of the children would be drawing their rockets or their, it looks like Concorde, doesn't it? They would be drawing those. And then you've got your little pouch at the top. Now I'm going to iron that flat. Okay, just make my iron warm up a little bit. I've got one of those standing irons, so it takes a little while just to get hot. So I'm going to smooth that down, smooth out my corners at the bottom. Okay, now I've got a little bit of puckering down there and I don't know why, so I'm going to go back in and investigate. Okay, so not sure why it's puckering, so I'm going to do some little snips. Now you need very sharp scissors for this, so I've got these ones and I'm just going to put some snips in. So I could pink a little bit closer, okay, but I want to be really accurate, so I'm just going to, it's only doing it on this corner, so maybe my interfacing has bunched up a little bit, maybe that's why. Okay, so let's push that back out and see if that's made a difference. So all those pieces now will be able to fold over much better. There we go. No, it's in that corner. So that's all you need to do. Just keep snipping until you find why it's happening, okay? So, as I said, you need very sharp scissors for this. Now these are new. I've not had them very long. Oh, I know why it is. It's because the pocket's gone further down. So there you go. So I wasn't sure what size to make, okay, and where to put the zip. So what it is, it's because the zipper tab is right down there, and that's on the corner. Okay, so when you're drawing your shape, make sure. And now that seam has come undone. Right, I'm just going to go back round and redo that seam. These are all the things that you can change. Nothing. The only thing that's final with sewing is when you cut. Okay, once you've made an incision into your piece of fabric, or you cut a piece off, you cannot go back. And as my nan always says, and many yours will have said too, measure twice, cut once. Okay. I'm just bringing my seam in just a little bit because I have snipped in too far. Okay, that's all I'm doing there because there did appear a little hole. I'm just going to check that I caught it. Yes. Okay. So that's why that bit was puckering. It's because you've got the zipper tabs down here. So if you're making your own, as I was saying, please note that, and don't, where's my seam ripper gone? Don't worry, as you probably do, I have many. They are always to hand because I need them all the time. So I'm going to give that a wiggle. Okay, it needs to come out a little bit more. And then we're going to do some top stitching. I'm going to use the tip that I often tell you, is take a pin and just pull out like that, okay? Just pull out your seam and then, like I said, just give it a wiggle. But as I said, I don't want it to be too pointy because I think it looks much nicer having a softer edge tree. And now we're just going to do a top stitch all the way around again using this perfectly matched thread. Okay, now don't know where to start. I'm going to start where the pocket is here because I can hide my start and stop stitch just there. Okay, so matching up the inside of my foot again, okay, not the outside, with the fabric, needle down. Now I haven't made my stitch longer, so let's take that out. Seam and ripper, see, this is why I said you need it to hand all of the time. So these ideas grow in my head as I'm sewing. Don't know if that's the same for you. Okay, give it a little wiggle. So I'm going to go to a 5.5 and a 3.5. Okay. Ready? Zip up. I'm going to have the zip up this way because otherwise it's going to be pushing against my machine. So it's about there, okay, that I want to start my stitch, so it's hidden on there. And then, as I said, just line it up here. Needle down, and there's a lot of fabric in here. So if you wanted to use your roller foot now, it would be a good idea. Because you've got all the seams, and of course when you get to the top and the bottom you've got where we added the zipper tabs, so we will just see if we need it. I'd like to try and make this without using any special feet or anything that you wouldn't already have. Right now, if I had my threads now, I would be able to pull this, but I can't, so I'm hoping that isn't going to bunch up. It didn't, that's good. So when you're sewing around again, I can just unpick that now, you know, it isn't final. But if I was maybe come in a little bit more, because when you get to that corner it might disappear into your machine. But if it does, just stop, cut your threads, take it out, and then just carry on sewing. So again, as we did before, just turn around with your hand, just guiding it. So you're doing your curves. Now here I've got that little bit of a pleat, so I'm foot up, foot back down, and it will just go over that without pulling up any of the fabric. A bit tricky around this corner. Foot up again, just to guide it through. Oh, now I've gone a little bit haywire, but that's okay because we can change it, okay? Like I said, this is why I like to do it. So can you see my stitches? Neat as we remember, nothing is final. So I'll tidy up those stitches after. So all I'm going to do is going to go back to where I was. There we go, brought it back in. Okay, find the same hole that I was in, needle down, and I'm going to have to go, I'm already going as slow as I can, one stitch back. So what I'm going to have to do is push the fabric with both hands and just try and guide it so that seam allowance stays. That's much better, there we go. Okay, now this is my bulky corner where I've got all of those snips. Okay, just needle up, needle down, and just keep going. And go a little bit faster now because we're on the straight. Okay. Oh, more bulk there because of the pocket. Okay, so, you know, I'm learning along with you guys. Like I said, I did make a practice one earlier because I was just trying to figure out the shape. But I've changed a few things as I've gone along here. So if you have to make any changes or any tweaks, they're not fails, okay? They are design features. I heard somebody say that on Sewing Street this morning, so it's not just me that says that. Now I need to try and match up where I started. So anything that goes wrong and you have to do, well, it's not wrong. Anything that is different to your first intention is a design feature, okay? We don't have things going wrong. We just have design features. So I'm going to snip off there. I apologise if people are sending messages. I cannot read them. I don't know if it's because it's because I've got the bright light on, but for some reason I cannot focus on the picture, the screen. So I do apologise. I will go back after and I will say hello to everybody and I will say thank you for your comments. So hopefully you'll be able to get more masks in here if that's what you wanted to use it for. So you could put one on that side and one on that side, couldn't you? And then your zip is done up. But having the pouch that little bit higher and we're doing that top stitching, it's just going to make sure that these, because this is where I'm going to get, the girls will be putting the used ones, the dirty ones that need to go in the wash. Okay, so there you go. That's now going to stay in there, and they could put 2 or 3 in there, and it would fit perfectly. And then what they could do, I'm going to practice with this one. What I'm going to try is I'm going to put this in the wash as it is, okay. And then the masks, you don't have to take them back out. You know, you can keep them in there when you're washing. But if you wanted to put, I don't have any lollies. That's a shame, isn't it? You should have lollies in your sewing room. So yeah, so you could put a little lolly in the top of there, or I think you'd probably get one of the thinner chocolate bars in the top of there, okay, and then it could hang on your tree if you wanted it to, okay, and then you could put the gift inside here. You know, jewellery would fit in there, lots of cash would fit in there, gift vouchers would fit in there, and then, you know, you wouldn't have to use wrapping paper. So that was my idea. Trying to make something for Christmas, and obviously the girls are going to be using them to their masks. Now I've made it as a tree. As I said, doesn't have to be a Christmas tree, does it? So they can still use these next year when they've had them gifted to them. So if you make one, let me see. As I said, if you're on the YouTube channel, please subscribe, please like. Those likes do help us, and I would love to see yours. Go to Dawn's Tailor Made and add your pictures on Facebook. Enjoy the rest of your day. I'm going to work on I did say to you, I'm working on a Christmas pud circular purse. So I'm going to work on that for the rest of the day. Enjoy the rest of your day and happy sewing. Bye.